Howard.
Here.
Redland.
Here.
Showalter.
Here. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America. And to
the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We'll start with public comment. Do we have anybody down, Jake? We'll move on to the consent agendas, items A, B, and C. Item A is the 6/1/2026 commission meeting minutes. Item B is the 6/8/2026 special commission meeting minutes. And item C, appropriation ordinances 2026-12, 2026-12A, and 2026-P12. Any questions, comments, or concerns about the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A, B, and C.
A motion by Commissioner Redland,
Second.
second by Commissioner Archer. Mary, roll.
Redland.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Cloyd.
Yes.
Archer.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. Move on to presentations, proclamations. Item A is the options, domestics, and sexual violence presentation.
We're in Northwest Kansas. We have offices in Colby and in Hayes with the Shelter House in Hayes. We come to you every year and kind of update you on the past 2 years. I say that because KBI always reports a year in arrears, so their information is 2024, and even more odd. If you remember your recent Kansas history in 2024, the state of Kansas was hacked, as was the KBI information. So the information from law enforcement is only 3 months. We did match those 3 months in those boxes, so we are only reporting those 3 months what we did, but you can extrapolate from that, and then all the other information, we have 2025, and I'll go over that very quickly though. In the purple boxes in the left-hand side, that is the aforementioned state data for 3 months. There were, in those 3 months, there were 27 DV incidences in Sherman County. DV arrests, 31. That's a over 100% arrest rate. That is exemplary. Folks don't get help. The abusers don't get help unless they're arrested. Then they're helped. There's anger management classes and all kinds of things that can kick in at that point. We don't want it to, neither do the police, when it's a spiral out of control and someone die, let alone be hurt more than arrested. So that's an amazing percentage. The state of Kansas tries to get everybody to about 60-65%. So y'all are doing great. Reported DV incidences were 20, went over that, sorry. We provided, in those 3 months, 5 services directly to some of those folks. And then, remember that's 3 months, we provide a lot more than that. In the blue, that's the color of sexual assault, unfortunately. In the middle, you can see in those 3 months, in the Sherman County data, there were 3 sexual assault incidences and 3 arrests. Yay, your guys are doing great. Total services provided in those 3 incidences were 28 services. And then an area we can improve in is down below, and that is for the full year last year. That was the number of filings of protection orders, protections from abuse, stalking, sexual assault. You had 33. We were not involved in helping with those. That is a service we do offer. We could have helped with all 33. When we help, we make sure they're all correct and that the court filings for those protections from abuse are, well, there's just certain things that we can help with, make sure that people are getting the best service possible with those. And so I want to communicate to your county that whether the court system or the law enforcement, please give us a shout to help with those and the public at large. 9 bed nights provided to people in Sherman County. That means 9 hotel rooms. The usual situation in Sherman County with your folks is we put them up in another county that's bigger in a hotel. We don't have a shelter yet in Colby. That's a 3-year plan to have that happen. We have the building donated at the moment, and we're going to get there. But we put them up in hotels. it's real easy to find somebody in a hotel parking lot in Goodland, so we try to get people in other places. And so that's why that's reflected there. That's 9 bed nights, and of those 9, 3 were for children. We did 6 SANE exams. That's a sexual assault nursing exams. Unfortunately, we only have official SANE nurse in Hayes, so we will transport folks to Hayes, and they'll do that exam. It's forensics exam for court. And then if you see the left top corner, you see that we provided in 2025 safety for 445 people and 21,517 services provided to those 445 people directly. We have 25 advocates. Most of them, advocates are the people who rescue people, and most of them are mobile out of the 2 offices. They're in your county at least 2 times a month, but I can guarantee you in Sherman County they're here a lot more, especially when college is in session. And our mobile advocates travel. The counties have office hours in the counties, attend court hearings with the victims within your county. We're funded mostly by the Victims of Crime Act and the Violence Against Women's Act, which is basically funds come from the fines paid by crime in the United States, and then they're distributed back. They leave an 18 to 20% gap in that, and we have to find that funding, and then once we've spent the dollars with that 20% funding, then they give us the 80%. And that's why we come to you every year with an ask, and we thank you very much for your participation in funding these services. Last year you had an appropriation of $1,800. We're asking for an appropriation of $3,000 this year. I hope you will see fit to find that in your budget. That gap comes to approximately just over $200,000. And so we don't ask a lot of the cities and the counties, but we do come to you and ask a little bit, and we mostly are funded in that $200,000 gap with private donations. Do you have any questions about our services?
When you have somebody that goes for a SANE SART exam in Hayes, who does that transport? Do you guys do that, or is that permanent?
We sure do. We like, and the police do too, like to keep it out of the cars, the police cars. The victims feel like perpetrators when they're in the police cars. We escort them, we sit with them, if they want, through the exam. And then we bring them back. Sometimes we might put them up in a hotel in Hayes if the shelter is full or they don't want to be in the shelter. We let them rest if it's in the evening, and then we bring them back.
And then the difference between the 1,800 that was provided by Sherman County last year and the $3,000 is being asked this year, is there a specific reason for the increase?
I think we've asked for that amount before, it's just that you had funded that. We haven't increased our ask. Just asking.
I stated last year that we really appreciate what you guys do. It's amazing the work you guys do to help, because So I am just saying thank you.
Thank you so much. I always say, our employees every day is someone's worst day.
I can't imagine what you guys deal with.
Thank you. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. We're an email, phone call, text away if you need information or help.
Certainly, we appreciate you coming at this time of year. It's a lot easier for us to talk about this during budget time than it is after we've already said all those numbers, so thank you.
I appreciate you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the 2025 audit report. I'll invite Harold up to the microphone. Harold, good to see you again this year.
the, table of contents, the independent auditor's report. This is our part of the financial statement. And you always, as a group, opt out of general accepted accounting principles. That's the statutory, thing that you do each year. Which are your records are a matter of public records. We have to say you're not in accordance with general accepted accounting principles to begin with. And then we tell you that based upon the Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide, which you're following statutory wise, you are in accordance with it, and we have a clean or unmodified opinion as far as the financial statement goes based upon that basis. If we turn to page 4 and 5, because I know you're kind of got quite a bit of stuff to do, I'm going to kind of go over this statement here. Statement 1 shows all of the funds and kind of summarizes everything, whereas in the back there's the detail. So overall, your unencumbered cash balance at the beginning of the year was $13,000,006. At the end of the year, it was $21,000,008. That's an $8,244,000 increase. But most of that actually was due to one particular fund, and that was the street improvement fund, which started the year at 0, and due to the bond that was issued, $6,674,000 is your increases there, which is projects that you're actually working on now. And at the year end, there hadn't been that much going on yet. So that's the biggest change from the previous year. Your general fund, it just went up about 10,000. Revenues were up, especially the taxes were up 108, but your expenses were also up by 150. So the net result was that you increased general fund by 10,000. Special highway was one of the funds that went down. I'm just talking about the bigger changes. It went from 113 down to 68,000, and most of that was due to the fact that the state did not make any contributions to that. You're kind of winding down that project. Already received that money, so it was down 45,000. Your self-insurance went up actually 33,000, and that was because the withholdings were up, expenses were down. The airport went from 402,000 to 440,000, or up 42,000, mostly because there wasn't any expenses in that particular one. Municipal equipment reserve, it went up 850,000. That was partly due to grants being up from the state, as well as the expenses being down, so it increased 850,000. Capital improvement went from 6,000,003 to 6,000,007, roughly 410,000 increase. Revenues were down, but the expenses were down more, so that's the reason that particular fund's up. Employee benefit went from 140,000 to 112, so it went down about 29,000. And that was basically, the taxes were down some, the expenses were up. The health insurance was the main reason the expenses were up on that particular one. Airport improvement is one of those kind of interesting issues, because it actually went up, but it's still sitting at a negative. It went from a negative 637,000 to 266,000. That's basically due to the fact that the grant, the state still owes, not the state, the federal government still owes on the grant on that one. Generally speaking, when you have a negative fund balance, it's a statutory violation, but it's not in this case, because you do have a grant that's going to cover that. You're just waiting for those funds to come in. So we didn't have any statute violations, and that's explained in the back that you get out of that because you have federal grants coming. And then we get into the electric, water, sewer, and the health fund. They're actually all down. Electric was down 49,000, water was down 7,000, sewer was down 27,000, health was down 6,000. But out of those, one of the things I look at is what the cash balance is compared to 3 months worth of expenses. And in the electric fund, your cash balance was 1,002,000, but your that 3 months worth of expenses is 1,000,005, so you're kinda a little bit short there. Water, it's, you were okay in it because you have 368,000 in it, and those expenses, 3 months worth is 310,000. Sewer was okay because it's at 174,000, and 127,000 is what 3 months worth of expenses are. And then, health department is down, or below that, it's, 3 months worth of expenses, 150,000, but you only have 48,000 in it, so that's the thing. When you're looking at budgeting and that, type of thing that's going on now, you might wanna look at those funds and see that, you feel comfortable with where they're at. This is just kind of a ballpark that I'm talking about. There is no state requirement or state statute that says you have to do it that. It's just that if you were a business, which is what these particular funds are considered, you'd wanna be at that rate in case whatever happens in terms of the revenues coming in. If they were to hold off, you still have the expenses, you still have to supply the product, so therefore, you're gonna be able to have some kind of a stopgap is when that happens. Other than that, we turn to page 17, and that's Schedule 1, and it shows your expenditures compared to budget. And again, as long as there's a 0 or a bracket around that amount in the far right column, that means you're under budget, and therefore you're okay, and there's no statute violations there. So overall, you know, you had a pretty good year, it looks like. Part of it was a build-up from having the one bond fund passed, so you've got to keep that in mind. In terms of what we tested, we didn't have any issues with what we tested. The controls were being followed and things were being put in the right place. So, any questions?
What is the penalty for like the statute violation if that were to happen?
Statute violation? That's an interesting question, because all I've ever seen the state do is send a letter saying you shouldn't do that.
Okay.
Okay, I've never seen them penalize anybody for doing stuff, so.
Okay, but you can be penalized. They're supposed to.
There's that possibility, but really the only possibility there would be for them to withhold some state kind of funding that you receive.
Okay. Thank you.
And I've never seen that happen, okay?
Any questions, comments, or concerns for Harold? Based on what you've seen, Harold, what's one financial issue you think that we should focus on during this budget cycle?
I would focus on those service funds, water, electricity, heat, sewer, just to see if I can help maybe build up that cash reserve a little bit more.
Okay. Did you note any management concerns or anything like that that we need to be aware of?
Like I said, based upon the testing we do, and we do quite a bit of extensive testing in terms of money coming in and money going out, we didn't have any issues with controls not being followed or things ending up in the wrong spot, so.
Good. Any other questions? Okay,
Okay?
Appreciate the detail.
thank you, Harold.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
See you again next year. Okay, we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. We'll start with the public hearing related to the proposed issuance of a taxable industrial revenue bond for Golden Waves Grain in principal amount of $225 million and in regard to an exemption from the ad valorem taxation of property constructed on purchase with proceeds of such bonds.
Good. Kevin Cowan with Gilmore and Bell is on the screen.
Hello? Got a little bit of an echo. Can you hear us? I think you
he said-
can, but now we can't hear.
But we can't hear
Except
him.
he's on mute.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Maybe? Oh,
Looks like he's muted. Isn't that what that red microphone means?
Yeah. But even when he's off mute now.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
still-
Go.
he's gonna go back, come back in.
Try this again. Can you hear us?
He can
You
hear us.
can
but
hear
can't
us, but we cannot hear him.
Which speakers?
This is not the way we had this planned.
Getting PTSD from college.
Take 3. No, we still can't hear you.
Josh is still working on it.
Worst case scenario, we can have him just
Just
call
call
on
in.
the phone.
We'll try that. Okay. Kevin, I think we're gonna just call you on the phone, okay? Okay. Can't, you might have to do that, cause I don't know how to use this thing.
Except I don't know if that's his. I have his office phone. That's not gonna help for right now.
Does the meeting have a call-in number?
No.
I do have a number associated with it, but if the audio is not working on this part of it, it's not gonna work if we call it. Cause it's a desktop only version.
Hello, Kevin?
Yeah.
All right.
To hit that.
No, that's for
Yeah,
the
hit-
mic.
Yeah, hit that mic right there.
Oh, hit that.
Yep, there we go. Perfect.
Okay, Kevin?
Well, good evening. Sorry about all the confusion.
No problem. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hang on one sec.
Josh, are we getting good audio for the live stream?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that mic.
Okay.
I am getting a little feedback, so I may hang up on the video part and just stay on the telephone part.
That works for us.
Okay.
Can you guys all hear in the audience here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And you can still hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, this is much better. So, Mayor, you introduced this item, and it is a public hearing. The public hearing, first a public hearing, relates to the granting of a property tax abatement and on the Golden Waves project, the Bread Boy project. The governing body had approved an intent resolution for the industrial revenue bonds in May, but the company had pushed for that to occur quickly, faster than a public hearing could be held, and so that was approved. That led to, company proceeding with some things, but before you can consider and grant the property tax abatement that's been discussed on this, our statute requires not only a public hearing, but giving notice of the public hearing, which was published and delivered to the other taxing subdivisions, and then also requires that a cost-benefit analysis be prepared and available in connection with the property tax abatement. So I thought I would go over the cost-benefit analysis. There's a lot of information in it, but the summary or the end results probably what you care about the most, and then we could, I think, open and close the public hearing, and after the public hearing, you can consider a resolution that looks a lot like what you adopted in May, and it contains everything that was in that resolution, but it amends and restates all of that in the same way, and then adds the property tax abatement component to it. So based on the inputs that were provided by the company, which are roughly a $225 million project when you factor in land acquisition, building improvements, and furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and the city's consideration of a property tax abatement that would be 90% for years 1 through 3, 85% for years 4 through 6, 80% years 7 and 8, and then 70% years 9 and 10. So that's a partial abatement. The way we address that is a full abatement is approved, but the governing body authorizes and directs that a payment in lieu of taxes agreement be entered into. And the payment in lieu of taxes is the converse of what I just described. So they will pay 10% of their taxes through that they would otherwise have due years 1 through 3, 15% years 4 through 6, 20% years 7 and 8, and 30% years 9 and 10. So based on those inputs, this report, which is run by Wichita State, shows that, and this is on page 9, if you have it in front of you. If you don't, that's okay. But the summary is that the present value of the net benefits to the city, so exceeding any cost, is $2,770,000 over 10 years, and the public costs the public benefits are $11,167,711, and the public costs are $8,397,667. So that leads to a ratio of 1.33 times of the benefits to the costs. And you may wonder, well, how do we get to the public benefits on the city side when, we're granting a pretty substantial abatement? And so your benefits are the payments in lieu of taxes that they will pay. This report factors in there are going to be employees that are earning wages and shopping and spending dollars, and they have lots of multiple hires. And if you have a certain number of employees, that is presumed to lead to a certain amount of economic activity. And so that's what it is. It's not just sales taxes, but maybe you have more residents, and they'll now be homeowners, taxpayers, and so that is how that is derived. And I'm going to cover the 10-year and then come back to a 20-year period that is shown here. But county doing the same sort of analysis is 1.28 times benefit to cost ratio, so a positive. The state is 3.16. That's always a larger number because the state doesn't have really a hand in any of the property tax abatement. They do a little bit in the sales tax exemption as part of this. But the state will benefit from the increased economic activity and income taxes and sales taxes. And then the school district is essentially a wash over the 10-year period, just about $10,000 more in public benefits than costs. And one of the school district's tax levies can't be abated, so they're held harmless on that one. And then, again, they'll benefit from potential of new students, and that drives some of their per pupil funding, and so that's how those numbers are arrived at. The 20-year, I always think, is more useful, and Kent, I had mentioned this to you, that you're not offering incentives to have a company invest in your community and be there for only 10 years. You're thinking much longer term, otherwise you wouldn't offer the incentives. So the 20-year is just a longer snapshot. I mean, they could run this for 30 or 40 years, whatever you hope in terms of having that business be in your community. But over the 20-year period, all of these numbers get much better. And again, I think it's more useful. You want to incentivize it. You can only incentivize it upfront on sales tax exemptions and then 10 years through the partial property tax abatement. But once you get past that and you look at a 20-year period, 10 years of which had all of your costs incurred in it, and then the last 10 years are more of where you're seeing the real benefit, those ratios get much better. And so over 20 years, your public benefits are almost $20 million. The costs are still the same, the $8.3 million in terms of property tax abatement and sales tax. So your ratio becomes 2.3 times benefits to costs at the city level. The county runs to 2.2 times, again, better ratio. State, 5.3 or 2.3 times, and then the school district, 1.63. And so I think what you can take away from this is, even though you're incentivizing it, the ratios are good. Your benefits based on these calculations, and these are all based on inputs from the company, how much money they're going to spend, and they're buying and selling goods and services, generating sales taxes themselves. They're going to have employees, as I mentioned, that will become residents and maybe drive some growth in your tax base as homeowners in your school district, as well through new pupils. So those are all of the inputs, but again, a pretty positive cost-benefit analysis. The statutes that require this don't require that the cost-benefit analysis show anything in particular. It could be terrible, the ratios that I'm talking about, and it may be the sort of thing that you would still want to incentivize. Maybe not, but it's still possible. So I always like to point that out, that it doesn't have to show anything in particular, but it is a bit of an eyes wide open requirement that you all as a governing body have to have your eyes wide open based on the results of this cost benefit analysis before you can approve the granting of the property tax abatement. And again, this is a pretty good report. So I'll stop there. If you all have any questions about the report itself, and then, as I said, we can move into the hearing and then close the hearing, and we can talk about the resolution, which will be a pretty short discussion because I've kind of covered that, and it doesn't do much more than what you've already approved in a resolution.
Okay. Do any commissioners have any questions for Kevin? We're getting a lot of shaking heads, so I don't think we've got a question. Oh, sorry, JJ, I interrupted you. Did you say you had one? No. Okay. So I don't think we've got any questions for you right now, Kevin.
Okay. Well, not unusual. And again, these reports, and Wichita State does a good job, and a couple of other Department of Commerce will run this for you as well. And so they work at the inputs and try to get it right. It's all forward looking. If we all were to talk about this in 10 years or 20 years, undoubtedly the numbers would be different than what this is showing, but it gives you a good idea of what to expect if these are the investments, these are the employees, these are what they're going to pay the employees with the payroll. So, so if you want to open the hearing to the public, I'd also like to mention the hearing doesn't have any teeth to it. There's not an opportunity to, show up and protest in a way that this would legally halt the proceedings, but it is an opportunity for people to be heard and to talk about the project.
Sure. Okay, thank you, Kevin. So,
I did think of a question for him, if
Okay.
that's okay.
Sarah has a question for you, Kevin.
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, so do you run these cost benefit analyses often?
I'm sorry.
She was asking if you run these cost benefit analysis often.
I don't run them. It's usually a third party. I'm on council for the city. I should have identified myself, but I see these a lot, and so that may be as useful as if I run them. So yes, I'm very familiar with these.
So you say this is a good outlook. Would you say this is like better than the normal ones you see, or about average?
Oh boy, it's at least average.
Okay.
Maybe a little better. We see a lot of these. Not surprising to you all, I'll suspect. We've seen a lot of these in the last few years on housing projects, particularly multifamily housing projects that can be financed with industrial revenue bonds. And so I've seen a lot of those recently, and this is undoubtedly better than those because this is driving creation of new employment opportunities, and as I mentioned, the payroll, and this is a company that's going to be buying and selling things. A lot of those will be sales tax exempt if you're talking about equipment and inputs, but still just generating that sort of economic activity, which is kind of like what you want to see and maybe what the statutes want to incentivize. And so better than many that we see for this isn't sort of classic manufacturing, but it sort of is manufacturing in that it's taking an input and producing something else. And those sorts of things always drive a pretty good ratio. So I think I'm being very conservative when I say it's at least average. It's probably better than most of what I see, but it's on a broad variety of projects. Sometimes it's a warehouse or something that somebody wants to incentivize and they don't even know what business may locate in the spec warehouse or something like that. And so, again, I can confidently say this is better than a lot of those things. Probably not the best I've ever seen, but it is pretty strong.
Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Kevin? Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing portion, and if anybody is here to speak on behalf, we'd certainly invite you up to the microphone, introduce yourself, and tell us what you'd like to say.
I'm Brian Lennon. I'm one of the founders of the Golden Ways Grain Project. I think y'all know that. I guess I would start off by saying I'm willing to provide whatever information, answer any questions that the commission would like to have. I'd be happy to provide a 3 to 5 minute overview of the project if that would be beneficial, or if you all just want to jump into questions, that's fine too.
I think I'd start with questions. I'd just start with, has there been any changes? I have been a part of meetings about this for several years now. Is there any changes from the initial meetings to what your business plan looks like now? Is there a different forecast for jobs or anything like that? Any major changes that we need to be made aware of?
So a lot's changed in we've been at this for a little over 6 years. So a lot's changed. We initially started out just looking at putting in a flour mill, and quickly learned that selling flour is a lot like selling wheat or corn. It's just another commodity. There's not a value add there. So we pretty quickly pivoted to baking bread, And for a long time, the project was just to have a bakery with one line, a bread line that we change over between bread and buns, hamburger and hot dog buns. And after some discovery and meetings with Associated Wholesale Grocers, that's the company that's given us a letter of intent to purchase and distribute our product, we found out that the bun volume, kind of because of COVID and some changes in living habits, the bun volume had gone up quite a bit from what our feasibility study showed, and it would be very beneficial to have a dedicated bun line. So that was about a $30 million add to the project, and I want to say that was probably only 2.5 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So kind of to bring everything up to a current state, today we have about 25 to 30 million dollars of private equity raised. We need to get that to 100 million. We've talked to several banks. We have a term sheet from one bank, Sunflower Bank. We're in the process of getting a term sheet from CoBank. We believe we need about 150 million in loan funds to pair with the private equity and get the project done. And we're very confident that if we get that commitment from a bank, we'll get the rest of the funds. We may get them anyway on the private equity side. The holdup today from the bank side, not really a holdup, but just the request, is they'd like a letter of commitment rather than just a letter of intent from AWG. And so we're working through volumes and trying to get those numbers to work for the bank and for AWG so that they'd be willing to sign the commitment. We think we're going to get that done within about a week. And so if we can do that, we feel like we'll be able to get the commitment from the bank. If we get the commitment from the bank, then we feel like the rest of the private equity will roll in. So that's kind of where we're at. There's been a lot of ups and downs in the projects, but that's kind of the current status of things. The engineering is, we have a guaranteed max number from Hutton on the project. There's a few more things that are outside of Hutton's scope that we'll have to add. We're using all Kansas companies. Hutton for the general. Coperian's a bakery company. They're headquartered in Kansas City, and Kais is doing all the milling and flour handling equipment and grain handling equipment, and they're headquartered in Wichita, like Hutton. So pretty excited about that. I think you guys have heard a lot of the other, we've got a big incentive package from the state, and of course you guys have made a very generous package that you put together for us. And so yeah, we're just trying to keep pushing that snowball until it rolls by itself, and that's where we're at. So
What time frame? You still thinking a couple of years to be up and going?
So right now our time frame is, if we can get the funding secured by July 1, all our bids are firm up until July 1, which we've had them for over a month. So the contractors are giving us a little bit of grace on that. Then we'll have a groundbreaking in August. I think it's August 19th. Is that right, Alan? 17th or 19th. We've already got that set. The governor was available at that time, which is really important to us to have the governor here. And if we can hit those dates, then the plan would be that the plant will be up and running and baking bread in January of 28. So about a year and a half, just over a year and a half.
So based on that schedule or timeline, when would you start to employ people? Would that be in January, or would you have some employment prior to that?
So we already have a couple of key employees that have been on with us for a time. Brend King is our CEO. He's a graduate from K-State Milling School in 1987. Worked right out of college for Cargill. Has worked in milling. Has worked in construction. Has had some experience in bakeries, and so he's really a good fit for this. And this project is, he calls himself a bread snob. It's his near and dear to his heart. It's more than just a job, definitely for him. And then Angie Singer is our food scientist. She's doing our test bakes for us, and she's developing our recipes and formulas and refining them as we speak. So we've leased a facility in Middleby, that's the company, in Plano, Texas. And we've been leasing that facility for a week a month since January. And so she goes down there and bakes bread for a week, bread, buns, whatever we need. And we actually had an event in Kansas City last night that the Fruth family put on for us. Brad Fruth is our contact with Beck Seed, and they are offering, growers, if they buy seed, they'll buy their share of stock, and there's different things, incentives there. But they put on a big barbecue for the 250th America celebration in Kansas City last night, and our buns were what the burgers were served on. So that's pretty cool. And so we've done some things like that, and but yeah, I think hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, so it sounds like some employees now,
Oh.
and then the bulk of the employees will that be?
So yeah, as we kind of anticipate that as we get to the breaking and move beyond, we'll start to hire employees, and it'll be a ramp up over the year and a half. I mean, we obviously won't hire 141 employees overnight. We have 2 now. As we start to break ground, we'll need more people to, kind of help manage the construction site. And then when the building's up, we'll need to start maintaining that and working on that. So it'll be a steady ramp up. It's kind of what we expect from August, September of this year forward. So
that could bring more people into the community even before.
oh, I'm sure. Plus all the construction workers that are building the facility. I mean, it's going to be an all hands on deck project for Hutton, and you guys know how it was when they redid the high school when they built topside. I mean, it'll be significantly larger than that. This is a 230,000 square foot building roughly, so it's quite a bit bigger than those other projects were. So there'll be a lot of people in town for the work. So, absolutely. Good questions.
Questions from Brad? Okay.
We've got a video that I sent. If you guys would like to see it, it's kind of a walkthrough through the building. I think it's a, 8-minute or 10-minute deal. If you guys want to watch it, so.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to come up and answer more questions too at any time. So.
Okay.
That's why we're here. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks.
This is like the view straight from the east. The mill is the taller part of the building in the back. And then this front is kind of an office area and entrance where everybody, all employees and everybody comes in the same entrance. So this is kind of rotating around to a view from the north. So Hutton's designed in kind of a discovery zone. They have a sort of a cantina or like a kitchen area in there where we can prepare food for groups or employees. The idea is to showcase the building and teach people about making bread and why wheat's important and how all those things matter, So they really done an unbelievable job with the interior of the facility.
So it would bring people in from, say, like off the interstate as well, and bring people into the community.
Absolutely. I think it'll be a real showpiece that will have a lot of tourism just because they heard about it and want to see it. And you'll see when they go down the hallway next to the bakery, you'll see that there's glass areas where they can watch bread being made, see the equipment.
I have a feeling this will be like where AT probably gives all the tours, right?
Maybe not all of them. I might give one or two.
You'll rotate.
This would be a good experience for local school districts that want to come by and learn too.
Yeah, I really think it'll be an opportunity for people of all ages to, understand where their food comes from.
And you're still planning to have the QR codes on the packages to be able to scan and find out just where that bread came from, right?
Right, so the idea is to have a group of growers on there as far as showing where, you know, who grew their wheat that went into the bread, and kinda like where it came from, or what area it came from. No one else can do that today.
Start with a group, but we can go to an individual. We have the ability to go to the field, right?
So one of the guys that wrote our feasibility study, this would be kind of from the southwest. Those are our loadout docks to ship bread out. There's some docks kind of hidden behind that sign in the front on the east side, and that's our receiving docks for like ingredients and things. But this would be where the bread goes out, and buns. So one of the guys who wrote our feasibility study, we were having breakfast with him, this was 3 years ago or more, and he leans up over the table and he says, Walmart can tell you where a head of lettuce came from within a square meter. And he said,
In California,
They
in the
w-
field.
they wanna be able to do that with bread, and they can't today. Because grain goes in these big bins and gets commingled, and they don't have any idea where it comes from. In our project, we'll be able to do that.
Cantina.
And then will the bread mainly or only go to grocery stores? Or will it also go to, let's say, local restaurants if they want to purchase the bread?
Oh, I think we'll make bread available for the local area. We've talked about having just a local delivery van that goes to the grocery stores and, you know, where C-stores, whoever wants to carry it in the local area here, you know. But, yeah, I mean, initially, we're going through AWG, they're kind of our main channel to start with. But I expect that we're exploring other markets right now.
This AWG services stores in this area, right? So it would be senseless to take it to Kansas City and bring it back.
Because you're not gonna sell product from the building though, correct?
We've talked about having an area where we can do that. We haven't worked out how all that will function today, but our intent is to be able to have people get product here locally one way or another. Like we've talked to Megan Thomas about maybe we just make it available down her store. Like she comes and picks up, you know, whatever, a dozen loaves a day, or we take them down there, you know, something like that. I mean, we've got local businesses that are interested in, you know, selling the product for us, so.
Right.
We've gotta work that out, but the goal is to kinda get the big scale up and going, and, you know, make that work for our big customer that's committed and all that, so we can make the whole project work.
There will be someone in the area come to us wanting to buy bread, right? To start a business.
Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to speak at the public hearing on behalf of, this project? Okay, commissioners, any other questions before I close the public hearing? Okay, close the public hearing at 5:54. And Kevin, we'll go ahead and turn it back over to you then before we move on to the resolution, if you'd like to guide us in the right direction.
Yep. So, as I mentioned, the resolution technically amends and restates what you adopted in May as Resolution 26-10. And the one thing that is different in the resolution, and I'll just highlight it, that is in Section 4, actually Section 3 and 4. At the end of Section 3, the new part of it, as we amend and restate what's already been adopted, is Section G, and it makes the issuance of the bonds subject to the satisfactory negotiation agreement with the tenant, which is Golden Waves, related to payment or exemption of all or a portion of property taxes assessed against the project after issuance of the bonds, which will include payments in lieu of taxes in the following amounts in years, with the amounts expressed as a percentage of ad valorem taxes otherwise payable. 10% So these are the payments in lieu of taxes. I referenced this earlier. 10% for 3 years, 15% for 3 years, 20% for 2 years, and 30% for 2 years. So that sets forth in this resolution not only the property tax aspect of this and that an abatement can be granted, but establishes the specifics of what the agreement for payment in lieu of taxes will be. And then section 4 is an entirely new section, and it just recites that you've determined that the statutory provision that applies in this case to the project, to the extent a cost is purchased or constructed with the proceeds of the bond, should be exempt for a period of 10 years, commencing with the year following the year in which the bonds are issued, which will not be this year. It's going to be sometime much closer to completion of the project when the bonds would be issued. And so the year after that will start the 10-year of abatement. It also references that no exemption may be granted for the school district, capital outlay levy, uses restricted by the statute, which are essentially corporate hog farms and a couple of other undesirable things, at least to the legislature. And yeah, that is essentially it. I also added to that section for essentially the same statement that the issuer, which is the city, reserves the right to negotiate payments in lieu of taxes, so exempted, and references the 10% for 3 years, 15% for 3 years, 20% for 2 years, and 30% for 2 years. So everything else, again, is the same. Section 8 does reference that this resolution is intended to amend and restate Resolution 26-10, and from and after the date of this resolution, which is tonight, the city's intent will be governed by this resolution. So a lot of words to change, only that you're now authorized to grant the property tax abatement and negotiate the property tax or the payment in lieu of taxes that is outlined in this agreement. So I will stop there and stand for any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Kevin? Any follow-up questions? Okay. No questions? So I think this is the commissioners' opportunity to say anything if they'd like to about this resolution, and I'll open it up. If you guys have anything you want to add. Okay. I'd say that I think this is a valuable economic development project. I think we've been working very hard the last couple of years to try to do what we can to make sure this is a project that can move forward. All eyes in the state are on us, and I think this is just another step that we can take to, and it's one of many more steps we'll have to take, but to make sure this project moves forward. So that being said, I'd make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-11, amending and restating Resolution 26-10, which determined the advisability of issuing taxable industrial revenue bonds.
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Redland. Mary, roll please.
Archer,
Yes.
Cloyd,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. All right, Kevin, I think that's all we got for you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, well, flurry of activity on the bond stuff here these couple of months, but probably, as I said, not much activity on the bond side until they're well underway constructing, and then we sort of start communicating about when will you be finished, because we want to make sure bonds are issued in advance of that, and when your property would otherwise go on the tax rolls. And again, on $225 million project, I'm assuming at a minimum that's sometime next year. So,
okay.
Thank you all, and sorry about the technology glitch earlier, but hope to be before you again soon.
No worries. Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Right.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you, commissioners, for your support.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you
welcome.
guys for
Very
your
exciting.
investment in the community. Okay, we'll move on to formal actions. Item A, the home occupant permit at 719 Center Avenue. Kent?
I'm waiting for my building official.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, the suspense is killing me.
He had traffic in front of him, so.
Evening.
Tonight, there is a home occupation permit, that has went in front of the planning commission. For home occupation permits, it does follow the same sort of process as a rezoning. So there was a public hearing held, there was opportunity for neighbors to voice their opinion, of which there was one response, and they were completely fine with what they were asking to do. So, the request is to have a nail salon, one station nail salon in an R1 district, so that's what the home occupation permit would be for tonight. The planning commission has recommended to approve, and now it's your guys' decision. The applicant is here, and I would ask for her to come up for any questions.
Hello. I'm Evelyn Mason, and I'm just wanting to start running my nail business out of my home. I will be taking about probably 1 to 2 clients at a time. And I do have a 3-car driveway, so there shouldn't really be too much on the street, like cars or traffic or anything. And yeah, I've been approved by Kansas Board of Cosmetology for my setup and everything like that. Guess any questions?
Questions for me?
No?
Let you off easy.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Leah.
Thank you for bringing your business to Goodland. Mm-hmm.
Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I'll make a motion to approve the home occupation permit for 719 Center Avenue.
A motion by Commissioner Redland,
Second it.
second by Commissioner Cloyd. Mary, roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Floyd? Archer?
Yes.
Showalter?
Yes. All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the conditional use permit for 718 Caldwell.
Good evening again.
Evening.
Now we have a conditional use permit. The conditional use permit is for a use that is not directly permitted by right. For example, a single-family dwelling in an R1 district is a use by right. Tonight, the request would be to have an apartment in a C1 district. That is a conditional use, so they would have to come before the planning commission, have the public hearing, kind of the same thing as the home occupation permit. The property in question would be right there, the old carpet business, Wayne's Carpentry.
Oh, okay.
I don't think carpentry.
Carpets.
Queen's carpet.
The new property owner would like to put a apartment on top of it so they could utilize the property entirely instead of just using it as storage. That way they're not paying 2 separate housing bills. It is non-transferable. If it does change ownership, the next person, if they would like to use it as a apartment, would have to come in and apply for the conditional use permit as well.
Are they wanting to live in it or rent it out? They wanna live in it. Okay, so there'll be a business in the bottom and they wanna live on the top.
Pretty much all just storage.
Okay, okay,
They're moving in to town from the farm.
okay.
So this would be on the front of the building?
The middle portion of it. So we have the front half here, and then there's that little addition that tied the 2 buildings together.
Right.
This middle portion is basically getting remodeled from the ground up, and then they're gonna build up above that for the apartment.
And the planning commission recommended? Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, it's not here tonight, but
There's also a commercial building, so it all will be engineered stamp plans for this type of work.
And would they be able to rent it out, like, if they wanted to, or is that a whole nother process they'd go through?
It's a good question.
Okay.
We don't have an exact answer for those type of fans or,
That's just if it were to happen, we'd figure it out then.
well, they need to still own it.
Yeah.
In order for the conditional use permit to continue. If it ends up with a different owner. That's what's clearly stated in code.
Okay.
Beyond that is still a question.
So, the question would be, if it's sold in the future, and say a new owner did not get approved for the conditional use, then can they just not?
You
Live
could
in-
remodel it into an office or something like that.
As long as they use it for business purposes, then it's not like they have to like tear it down or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Understood.
Any other questions for Zach?
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for 718 Caldwell Avenue.
Motion by Commissioner Redland,
Second.
second by Commissioner Howard. Mary, roll.
Howard,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Redlin,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. Move on to item C, which is the acceptance of the 2025 audit report.
Mayor, I did just want to clarify one thing, that was regarding the ordinance that was included in your packet, that's ordinance number 1822.
Okay.
So, it just basically says it approves.
What was
the
that
condition.
clarification?
1822, the ordinance, it's in the packet, that actually just states the conditional use permit. Now, Mayor and members of the commission, the next item is the acceptance of the 2025 audit report that was given earlier in the meeting. And it's actually the physical copy of the audit report, so it can be filed with the state of Kansas.
Okay. Questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I make a motion to accept the 2025 audit report.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Redland. Mary, roll please.
Floyd,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Redlin,
Yes.
Showalter.
Move on to quote to repair water slides.
This situation regarding the Stever Water Park, we have been looking for a company to provide a little more of an overall restoration of the water slides. And that's been a difficult process. We've talked about it probably for a couple of years. We did have a company that came across, Fiberglass Restoration, which is included in your packet with a quote for $51,000. That may seem like an awful lot, but if the slides could last another decade or 2 decades, it would be well worth it, because a set of slides like that would at least be $250,000. Or around that cost at a minimum. We've done some limited repairs. Danny works, and as far as small repairs in different places on the slide, and you did have somebody come out after the 2016, I thought it was 17, but the hailstorm that caused damage, and had some repairs and restoration done at that time. This is more an overall product on both the blue and on both slides, on both the blue and yellow. We do set aside funds on an annual basis for the water part. So there are monies available in our reserve funds in order to pay this amount.
Is there enough?
There's enough for this, yeah.
Okay.
But the bringing it to you now, it's still safe to use right now. That was the only question about whether to present it now during the swim season, but they are just fine as far as operating now. But after the season's done, we want to get on the schedule with the vendor and be able to get the work done between this season and the season in 27.
Okay.
Is this the first major repair that's been needed since the slides were installed?
Danny, you might need to help me out.
We had the blue one redone because we had the hailstorm, and I don't think they worked on the yellow one, but now the yellow one is in need of repair, and like Kent said, we can get by this year, but I wouldn't recommend using it next year. We've got, there's some pretty bad chips in it that we fixed, but
You don't want someone to get hurt or to
right,
get hurt.
it's in need of repair.
The other thing is on the hailstorm, they probably worked on the exterior.
Right.
Since
They did
that's
some
a full
fiberglass.
tube, I don't know how much they did actually on the interior of the slide.
That's what I said, they left some extra blue liquid material paint, so I don't think they worked on the yellow one, I think it was just the blue one, inside and outside of it, but they're old enough now that they're in need of repair.
How old are they? When did we put them in?
Well, it'll be, what, 22 years?
Since the
Opening
park
of the
was
pool.
opened in
Okay.
'03.
Right.
Thank you, Danny.
Thanks.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns about the quote to repair the water slides?
So this would just be getting us on the books for after season, right? If we approve this?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, to get scheduled for them to come do the work, yes.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the water slides being repaired, but is there any other repairs that's gonna need to be done to the pool?
Like for that budget that we have, is that what you want to do, JJ?
Yeah, I mean, and we're gonna be looking at the budget too, so just in that case, is there any other repairs that the pool's gonna be needing? Major repairs?
There are, but where, as far as how critical it is, I mean, we could have a list. I mean, the stainless steel gutter is something that's a concern. The baby pool area is a concern. There's just a number of things. You know, we can pick which one. It may be, but as far as priority, the slides are pretty close.
Right, I was just
Pretty high
asking
on
if
the
anything
list.
else was as a concern.
There are other things, then there's other things that are smaller on the list as well, but,
Thing that I saw the other day that will have to be welded. And then I did some work over there the other day, but I was able to fix it in-house, and then like Kent and I was talking, that's probably gonna have to be painted again. Probably next year. What is that? 20-30,000?
I'm not sure what that came out.
But anyway,
Right
that's
around there. We do that every 5 years.
Yeah.
so,
As far as painting,
but there's always little things that we try and stay ahead of the game, but
And the slides, do they get good use? Do a lot of kids
oh
use
yeah,
them? Yeah.
I feel like it's a perk of like the local communities that have that and for surrounding communities that come here to take advantage of the pool.
it's difficult. I know some people brought up when I first brought here as far as do we replace the pool? Well, that's a big project. That would be probably a couple million, or depending on how you create it, it would be that type of big ticket item. There's a lot of stuff that helps make it happen at the pool.
Right.
questions, comments, or concerns about the quote for the water slide?
I'll make a motion to approve the water slide repairs for fiberglass restoration for the amount of $51,000.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Redland, second by Commissioner Howard. Mary, roll, please.
Cloyd,
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. Thank you. We'll move on to discussion items. Item A, progress update on 621 West 17th Street.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Hello.
From the previous 3 meetings ago now, maybe 4, was to get the floorboards finished on the inside of the structure, the joists and everything that has been done and completed. I went and inspected that on Tuesday, it was, I believe. So tonight was just a meeting for you guys to give the next step for them to have completed in the progress of the abatement.
I do not have any additional information from the city attorney as far as, because this sort of process has kind of bogged it down a little bit. Now, I understand that.
I personally would just like to get to a place where, you know, we're not, you guys don't have to do this. Like, as you can see from sitting here for an hour and a half, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. We just need you to just get it done. And we don't wanna be in your business any more than you guys wanna be up here talking to us, so, you know, one thing, I think we need to probably reach out and find out what steps we need to take to end this process, like, you know, and what that answer is, I don't know, but we just, you know, not to come off like a jerk, but we need to just get it done, you know? No.
Is there a deadline for
Certain amount of work, do you have a deadline for us for a certain?
I feel like we need to set a deadline for full compliance, like, that's, so it's just reviewing, what all's left.
That was gonna be my next question, is what all is left?
Obviously, new houses take longer than, that are coming up or remodeling, longer than we've been taking. so.
Right. Go ahead, Zach.
I was gonna say the windows, painting, exterior of the yard, that's the major things. Once we get those all done, then it would just be getting the inside safe to be used.
So when can you have the windows in the yard taken care of, you think?
Window and yard,
Windows, yard, painting.
Yard.
and painting. I don't know how long it's gonna take us to get the siding off and put, I don't have any idea of how long it's gonna take us, but. We shoot at a goal. To get the siding. Well, we have, this is summertime, so we have yards to take care of too, so the city won't be on us on that, so. That's gonna run it longer because we can't just put all our time into the house, so.
But we have been talking about this for a while, so that's why I would say, like, I mean, is a month feasible? Like, what is a feasible?
I think it'll take the summer. If you're talking about all of that, with all of that and our yards and just later. That's just,
And I think the issue that we're running into now is this process that we're engaged in with you is totally different than any other process we have with any other member of the community, like, we just need to get this wrapped up. Needs to be done.
Yeah, I've seen houses that have been told to, just still having the same things, like 3 years, they're working on it, but they constantly have to work on it. And I
I know you guys have worked with them, so.
This is certainly
I don't wanna
new
go
for
through a
me.
year, let me tell you.
Yeah, I was
Neither
gonna say,
do
this
we.
is new territory for me, so.
Mr. City Manager, any suggestions for how you think we should proceed?
Well,
I don't know if we
Can we
just,
just have a certain date, we can come and discuss it again and see how far we're going?
I think, you know, one thing I asked specifically, or gonna ask for, is for some input from the city attorney about what our options are for, bringing this process to completion. Like, you know, if we need to have another public hearing, or if we need to, what part of the process do we just need to say, all right, enough is enough? If it is not done by this date, then we're gonna move forward with whatever process needs to take place to finish this. Like, as cold-hearted as that sounds, it just has to be done. And I don't know that we're ready to set that date, and I haven't heard, any input from the city attorney yet, so maybe we just need to have, another discussion item at the next meeting where Jake can give us some feedback on what his suggestion for an off-ramp for this entire process, because we can't continue to do this for the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, I don't.
Bring you in one at a time and have you
We
tell us
said
that you've
3
done this
months.
and that you've done that.
That's the summer, we said 3 months. I've seen you guys working with people in Goodland, working on their houses and stuff. And I still see that they need work on their houses, and it's been, I know, 3 years.
And I appreciate
not
that, but
gonna do
we're
that.
talking about your house tonight, so we can't compare us to other people or anything like that. We're talking about your property. So my suggestion would be is that we get Jake to get us some options for off-ramp for this entire process. We've been more than fair in letting the process play as we've done. In fact, we've probably set ourselves up for failure in future instances, so we just need to get back on track with whatever the regular process is. So that's my suggestion.
and we'll have a recommendation in the next meeting regarding that. Let's do it.
I agree with that.
As well.
Okay. Thank
So we
you.
don't have a date?
We're asking for recommendations from the city attorney.
Oh,
I recommend you keep working on it, though.
oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Move on to the Water Conservation Review City Code and Drought Monitor.
Mayor, members of the commission, included in your packet, there was, because of the recent rains, a little bit less of, on the category of the drought for Sherman County and for the city of Goodland. Also included some history of water treatment production in Goodland over the last 4 years. And we did start out with, in April, quite a bit more production than we did in the 3 previous years. In fact, almost double the production. Of course, 23 was a wet year, a wet spring. And that was only 22 million gallons that we pumped for that month. But in 26, this April, just a couple months ago, we pumped 42 million gallons of water. So that's quite a big difference. We did have increased usage in May, although not that much different from the last few years. In June, we have used so far, as of, for the first 11 days, we had 16 million gallons used. So if you just,
So a million a day.
yeah, a little more than 1 million a day. You know, but most of the time, you know, we had the wet June in 23 was 23 million gallons, 26 million, I'm sorry. But in 24 and 25, they are up around 50 million gallons. And that's pretty much where we're headed for this year. I just keep reiterating for folks, don't water during the middle of the day. Be conscious of what you're watering. There's no specific restrictions as of yet. And we have added a little bit of extra with the last water rates last year for the top end users. But, staff may come back at some point this summer and ask you to take additional action regarding water rates. Because the state is really looking at, because of the concerns regarding the aquifer and groundwater management district, to have additional restrictions on municipal use. The first thing they're gonna ask is whether we have any conservation plan, and that's why we keep bringing this up.
I did hear some feedback. Thankful for you being on the morning show on the radio and speaking about the water conservation and just bringing it more to the public eye in that way. I did have someone reach out and say thank you for that. And thank you, Shauna's not here anymore, but thank you to Shauna. She came and spoke at a meeting last week.
She's around the corner.
Is she here? Thank you, Shauna. Just getting it in front of people is the most important thing right now. And so,
Yeah.
thank you for the staff for continuing to do that.
Okay. Any questions, comments, or concerns on the water conservation or drought monitor? Okay. We'll on item C, follow up on Pride and Craftsman Homes presentation from June 8th.
Included the packet of materials that they provided in the packet. And what did you think of the presentation?
I'm of the opinion if we can do a trial and see how it goes, that I would be interested in that. Because, I mean, we're constantly talking about a housing crisis in town, and this is a potential fix for that. I think that's important. I'm not saying we should go all in on the, 78 houses. We can't commit to that, not knowing how it's gonna work. But if we can do a trial and see if it's something the community reacts well to, that it's a good option.
I was impressed just with how quickly they can stand up the houses and being able to have the model homes available. And just one program that might be able to provide some assistance to those who purchase these homes that I was looking at is that neighborhood revitalization, which includes the property tax rebates. So that could go hand in hand with the homes, based on what I was reading. And the other thing that stood out to me is, if we move forward with the housing development, I think that we should consider language that ensures the purchaser doesn't rent out the home for a certain period of time, just with the goal of these homes being able to provide options for lower cost homes to families or individuals, just making sure that they're not purchased for someone to generate revenue off of them. That would be my ask.
And he said he had that in deeds in other communities, right? Something similar.
That he had, he sold your home for a big profit. Half that money got donated to something else.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So it's something they have thought about on their end, which is nice.
Question about the exact financial upfront commitment on our behalf. Was that the 38,000?
Correct, the 37,500.
37,500.
Is that the half of the 75,000?
Right.
But is that for all 78?
What that is doing, and the reason we created the RHID district, and that's why we invited the county commissioners and the school district to be here as well. We had talked to them last year, I'm forgetting when exactly it was, but on the creation of the district, which involves the 2 lots north of Topside Manor, and then also the parcel to the west of Topside Manor. We identified that as RHID, which is Reinvestment Housing Incentive District. And what that does is allows the opportunity to have a financial issue to use their property taxes that they'll, on the improvement of the land. And sometimes RHIDs are used in downtown environments. They're also used in environments like this. Allows the increase in property taxes to help pay for the infrastructure cost. What this developer was asking about as far as the start on the $37,500 is to work in conjunction with Prime Craftsman Homes and PEC, Professional Engineering Consultants, through the entitlement process to get exact development estimates. What you need the development estimates for to extend the utilities and the streets and the drainage and the platting process in order to get more concrete numbers for what you would put on a bond issue. And we would work with Gilmore and Bell regarding that. But that $75,000 would allow you to come up with, get further along in the platting process and understand what the cost would actually be for extending the water, the sewer, the electric, and then the streets and the drainage. And the natural gas, of course, as well. Although that's usually not involved with the infrastructure cost. But that's all that's trying to do to be able to kick off this project. Now, we have kind of a good setup right from the start in that those two lots just on the north side of Topside Manor already has the street there and the curb. It would matter as far as extending the sewer and a little of extension of water to be able to serve the property. And then you could have, he showed on his, within this packet, 8 lots or something with that on those two. 8 housing lots on the two. 6 on those 2 lots. Whatever number it is. But that would be a minimal number. And that could be seen as a example of whether the housing would work or not. But the $75,000 is really getting towards, okay, what is the extension of the utilities that would work best for the property, and how the platting process would start out. They would end up, he had an estimate in here of $300,000 total to get to the end point of that. He's not asking us for that. He's just asking to get to the point where we have cost estimates, and then we can include it in the bond work. And so then the financing has the ability for them to move forward.
So how does the actual ownership of the land, since we own that land, how does that play into this whole scenario? Are there ways that we could leverage that to our advantage to try to offset some of these costs?
That could be some discussion along those lines. And obviously regarding the larger parcel, that there's obviously some cost regarding that. With any development, housing development, the way the state of Kansas is basically set up is you end up with financing and you have special assessments to pay off the financing. And that's how they assess the costs onto the new homeowner of how to, they extended utilities, extended street to actually create the place where you bought the house. Goodland hasn't had, a brand new development in quite a while, but most of the development we've had is on empty blocks that have the streets already there. The sewers, or it's a short extension added on to what's already there that don't have these costs to have to assess somebody. But most newer developments in Kansas, they end up with these special assessments because the developer is either going to include it in the cost of the house, but the way in Kansas, then it allows it to the actual property owner who's going to occupy the property be the one to pay the cost. They just pay it off over time.
Yeah, it's usually included in the mortgage, right? No,
Not in Kansas.
not in Kansas, okay.
Sometimes, you know, in the Kansas City metro area and in the Wichita area and some places, they will do that. But you gotta be able to have guaranteed that you're gonna sell the property. You're not gonna wanna get stuck. I mean, it's just like in Colorado, it's 50,000 to 70,000 before you even turn a shovel full of dirt. As far as all the stuff to be able to make that place developable. For Kansas, it's not near that much because we don't have stuff associated with water rights and those type of things. But, that's part of what a housing development is. The other part is, as far as, this is a bigger chunk at this one time. It's not just one or two houses. We do have local general contractors that build houses, absolutely. But to do it in the numbers that they have, 10 or 20 a year, they just don't have enough capacity to do that between the general and the subcontractors. And then, so the question is this feasible? I don't know. That's what the presentation was about.
Certainly see this as another step that was part of the meetings that we attended 4 or 5 years ago when we had that housing study that we sat in on with the county commission, and they made that presentation to show us, you know, what we needed versus what we have, to make sure that if projects like this came available, that we could show the need for it. And, you know, I did have some local contractors that reached out to me with some negative feedback, but in the end, to me, this is, you know, maybe not the best plan, but right now it's the only plan that we've had come across our desk where we could stay in our lane and play a part in making something happen, as opposed to sitting around and complaining that nothing ever happens and nobody ever does anything.
And the price of the houses, if we can keep that under 200,000, I mean, 200,000 for a starter home is still insane, but that's what it is right now. I think that's the issue with doing it locally. Like, the minimum you can do is 300,000 for building a house yourself. And that's just unattainable for most starting families. If we can keep if we get houses in the area for under $200,000, I mean, you can't ask for a lot more, in my opinion, in helping the housing.
When we think about like Golden Waves of Grain and then bringing people into the community, the goal would be that we're expanding people living in the Goodland community and having more available housing options at a reasonable price for them and any other people that want to move here. And to look at Goodland as an option, not going to other surrounding towns. That would be my thoughts.
I do think that there will still be a market, even if these houses get built, for the local contractors to build houses.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because it's a different
It's a different tier.
Yeah.
tier of housing.
They build custom homes for the most part, you know, they don't run a cookie cutter home, per se. And there'll be those people that want that and custom home built over one of these too, so.
And there's always gonna be people that want the old houses that are in town. There's always gonna, I mean, that's what we went for. We went for an old house. We wanted the character. There's always gonna be people like that. But the issue is getting houses for people. That's the main issue here. We need houses for people to live in that they can afford to buy.
We need houses so that we can increase the tax base, because if we have these businesses that want to come in, we have the houses available, and it's not some other plan that we have to put forth with that company, because then that's just another stress, and then they start looking elsewhere. And that's what we
We're
want.
living in other communities when we're gonna talk about like
Correct.
those people spending money here. That happens when they live here.
Yes.
I don't know, I am on the, this is a step in the right direction. This is a way to get past the complaining of the housing situation and finding a solution to it. This may not be the solution, I don't know yet. I'm down for more information and more feedback from the community, but this is a step towards a solution. And that's what we're after. That's what we need.
I mean, it's a start, you gotta start somewhere, I guess, you know? You do 6, and if it doesn't work, you find something else to do.
Mm-hmm. That's what there's no way we can commit to 78 houses off the jump. There's no way. But if we can commit, or if we can do the trial basis and see how that goes.
You know, if you have people looking too, like that's the other thing, is if these hit at the right time, you have people looking for these houses, like it could be just a win-win.
Dude, real estate's still moving in town. There's still people buying constantly.
So the amount that they're needing to move forward, is that something that we have in the budget?
Can't we use the price of the 2 acres as a leverage for that part of it?
Well, they're gonna have actual, I can ask about that, but what they're needing to get started, and this may take, and that's why this is just a discussion item, there's nothing formal agreement to approve or not approve right now. Staff is just looking for direction to, well, how does this get put together if we wanna at least look at it? I can see the housing price, but what they're needing is actual resources to pay the engineers to get that work done.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had some money that we set aside for property demolition last year on 2 hotels that, at least on one, we're not gonna utilize.
Correct.
That could be some money available there.
That is, we would have the monies available because of that. And it is addressing kind of, it's similar, it's not the same topic, but it is similar.
To me, it's a meaningful investment. I think it's something we should move forward with.
I agree.
So if staff will have discussions with the people putting this forward and seeing what we can come up with as far as what's the agreement. Also have discussions regarding the property and what that involves.
He said that they've done this in other smaller communities. Would we be able to get feedback from them on how the process went and
They are starting with the 30 lots in Valley Center. I can talk with Valley Center, obviously. They're replicated a facility that they had in Tulsa. And I'm assuming the one in Tulsa had worked with a number of smaller communities as well.
just to get an idea of if it goes as he says it goes, you know what I mean?
The other thing is at the end of the month, I'll be in Wichita and I'll be able to visit their homes.
Yeah.
That are there, that they said are there, and their facility is at 40th and Webb, so.
Sounds great.
I just like that we have an option.
Yeah.
Steps. It's the word of the day. Steps toward something.
Good. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Move on to item D, the draft 2027 budget presentation for the rest of the general fund, utility funds, and remaining funds.
I suspect you want the city manager to talk about
Could
this.
you engage us there? Yeah, thank you.
Keep going to the next one.
You could have Mary do it. Or not.
That was a no.
What we have, and I just wanted to finish up the general fund. Personnel costs in the admin and general government includes the step increases and the cost of living at 3%. that's what we've started with, and that's basically what we started with at the last couple of years. That doesn't mean that's where we need to end up, but that's where we're starting, or at least what staff is putting forward. Contractual, the school sales tax increased the receipts, the insurance is up. The professional services, which includes the city attorney, elevator, IT renewals, comprehensive plan, and grant assistance. That grant assistance is not a full person cost, but it's contract out on different projects. The commodities is the same, but the building and equipment's maintenance and repair seems to occur more frequently. And that's actually gonna be one of the questions at the end, is we have a couple major issues. This roof on City Hall, as well as the museum roof. Roofs seem to be in
Hot topic.
the topic of the season. And then the repainting, the Van Gogh painting, we basically split it in, as far as the capital outlay within the admin. Cameron Cross will come this year to inspect it, see how much needs to be done regarding the Van Gogh, and then have a plan for restoration in 27. We were not going to get him here to restore it for the amount that we had in it anyway, which surprised staff, including the city manager, about how much it was estimated to cost to have him come on a work visa. That was more than I wanted to put. Go ahead, Josh. Also included with set asides as far as 3,000 to the general administration main reserve, and then 10,000 for the roof on the city building. That's not the entire roof. That's to patch a corner. No, I'm just kidding. It's just a pay down on it. And then the MRF we set aside for an IT backbone, and then also a little bit for a travel car. And then an amount for the grant improvement reserve fund, which we use to pay the match on different grants that comes forward. We do have questions regarding the city hall and also the Wolock building, which is the fire station building. It's ours to take care of at this time, regarding the Wolock. We also have an issue regarding the doors at the Wolock. We're going to try to take care of this year. The lift elevator at the Art Center needs to be, it's just kind of on the horizon if it needs to be an issue. The current lift is, it'd be nice to have something different. So, the biggies, oh, 2 visits better than 1. And then how much do we set aside for all these different things? Well, not if we want to keep the budget close to where we're at currently. Go ahead, Josh. Building inspection, we continue to share a person with court and city manager, and of course the building official himself. Contractual, the main items, we have printing and advertising that needs to occur, and also professional services, including weed abatement, building removal, and nuisance abatement, and tree removal. They're all included there. And then a little bit for schooling. And we have very little change in commodities. The amount in each of those doesn't really change as far as the building inspection budget. We do put aside balances in nuisance housing rehab and tree removal. We had no transfers this year towards that. And then we started setting aside $50,000 in 26. We request to continue that in 27 for the demos of the hotels or the res care ended up getting bought in between this getting prepared, or 17th and Main, which is another main building. That's an issue. We do need to set aside a little bit to replace the vehicle, minimal in IT. Go ahead, Josh. museum, there are gonna be changes and reorganization and at the beginning of 27 as far as personnel, just because the current director's situation. No changes on contractual, no changes on commodities. We budgeted an amount for education programming, 7,000, and Sammy does a wonderful job stretching that and making that work for the programs that are at the museum. And if you have a chance, go visit the museum at different times. They do quite a good job regarding the different projects. We do have a set aside for the museum roof. It's really just 10,000. Again, that's just a little portion of that roof. And then on the MRF, for the Municipal Equipment Reserve Fund, we have an alarm system set aside to add to it, a minimal amount for IT, the IT backbone, which is what we basically apply to most of the departments. Go ahead, Josh. Economic development, there's no personnel. There's the requirements of the agreement for SCCD. SCCD is not requesting more for us in 27 from what we had budgeted in 26. There may be more in following years. That's always a possibility. Commodities, no changes. There's the smallest amount set aside for the building, the Welcome Center building. It's still the city's ownership. And then we have leftover balances in the SURF. Okay, the main topic for tonight. Electric fund. Revenues. Revenues have kept about the same level. We really haven't changed the rates. We did some adjusting on the electric fund rates in order to resolve the issue regarding the OCA. But we did not, and that was said at that time, the change was not to gain more revenues at all. It basically was just to be able to cover the OCA, which was the operational cost adjustment. If we got a huge bill, it allowed us to add to people's bills in order to recover that amount. But the calculation of that OCA got to be more problematic than the result of it. But I do want to show you that budgeted revenues for the electric fund, there is not a significant difference from 2019 till now. And it's actually less than 2016, 2015, 2014 is less right now, is what we're receiving in the electric fund. We'll have a presentation on Waterworth on the revenue versus expenditures. However, that'll be after our decisions on the actual budget. However, just to let you know, there may be, we'll get a better idea and be more targeted for what we would want to do. Go ahead, Josh. This was, I didn't update this, I didn't go back into it, but I did want to show you that the rates for Goodland are amongst the middle of the pack for commercial and higher than average for residential. But we're still not at the extreme end of rates. And we're probably even less so now. On the commercial, Evergy Central, which is Wichita area, Garden City, and Evergy Metro, 25th, were higher than us. Just to let you know. Even though residential is currently 48th, Evergy Metro is 47th, Garden City is 49th. That was at that time a year ago. I'm sure some of those communities have had rate changes in the last year. Go ahead, Josh. The electric is split up. It is a little bit hard on much of these utilities to understand that it's split up into production. For electric, it's production and distribution. So we have some costs in the production side, we have some costs assigned to the distribution side. On the production, we have personnel, we're keeping the schedule, the contractual. The big ticket item is unchanged. We spend over $6 million a year as far as the power purchase. We'll be changing to KMEA purchasing contract, and the actuals may differ in this upcoming year in 27, but it's hard to forecast. And one thing that we will have is the purchasing contract. We may actually have a request to run power through our power plant because of the KMEA contract. So we'll see how that works. We did sign a couple contracts for fixed costs already. We did have a larger one for a 5x16, that's 5 days times 16 hours. Annual peaking of 5 megawatts to cover the city from Monday through Friday. From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., a little bit. And that would cover about 40% of the Goodland's energy needs, of the current energy needs. We also participated in a solar project for 2 megawatts. That would cover about 15% of our needs. However, and then we have a WAPA allocation, which is hydropower, the Western Area Power Administration. So we get credit, we purchase power. That's not the power that actually makes it to Goodland, but it's power somewhere on the grid. And we are able to purchase, and that covers about 5% of our power needs. And that will leave about 40 to 50% that we'll have to rely on the Southwestern Power Pool Market, SPP. I forgot the acronym quickly. Go ahead, Josh. However, that was all before this grain mill and bakery project. We're starting to have discussions with KMA personnel regarding another possible fixed energy cost contract as well as additional capacity. In fact, Dustin and I are talking with them, starting the discussion later this week. But that will involve several discussions. That won't be just done in one discussion. City will go from 12 to 13 megawatts at peak load to possibly 24 megawatts or more at peak load. Having almost 8 megawatts under contract leaves a large gap to cover. So, starting in 2028. Go ahead, Josh. We did increase in the production side commodities, about 3,000 increase, although actuals usually come in below that amount. And when you look at your, I sent it in the packet with all the numbers on it. When you look at that, realize that if we don't spend that line item amount, it just stays in the electric fund. So we may budget that amount. That doesn't mean we expect on several of the line items. That's not what we expect to. We'll spend every penny because it stays in the fund. But at least we have the budget authority to spend it if something would come up. Dustin would have the budget authority to do that. And he comes and talks quite a bit, you know, regarding purchases. Transfers to SURF, we still have portions for, again, it's roof replacement, which is just a part of the power plant facility, which is in need. Transfers to the MERV, portions for switchgear for 3-phase sub, motors for radiator building, and IT backbone. So, on the distribution side, again, we're keeping to the schedule and personnel. There's an increase in insurance. Electric, hopefully it's set aside for the electric master plan. The construction material and equipment maintenance is increased just basically because electric costs are going much higher than whatever this published rate, inflation rate is. And we've shown you that on different purchases. And then we do keep replacing old meters on the capital side, although not entirely expended most years. Go ahead, Josh. We did, Dustin did reduce, in discussion with us, reduced to $175,000 into the surf. We're still building on the 7 Mile tie-in. Still have plans for a south loop replacement and rebuilding Main Street. And we also have a 10,000 set aside for pedestrian crossing lights, if that comes about. On the MRF, we have set aside to replace unit 20, 19, and 41. And in fact, Dustin is getting estimates to get in the queue to purchase one of those units. Because it's basically 2 years to replace one of the bucket trucks, is when he's talking about those units, 2019 and 41. And also before additional inflation gets us.
You say if we get in the queue now, do we get now's price or the price for 2 years from now?
We get now price.
But they'll lock that price in for what they quote.
And what's the amount for a unit? Approximately basic cost?
We upped that to 200 and,
250 or 280.
yeah.
250 to 275 pretty
Yeah.
easily.
For unit 20.
And that's a base unit. That's not with
All the bells and whistles.
specials. Well, and Dustin pointed that out, going to a more common regarding the bucket itself on the unit. That also will get it sooner, although soon is an approximate word, than if we would ask for something specific. Go ahead, Josh. They are looking at ways to control supply chain issues, but that is getting more and more difficult on the electric side. We did have conversation with KMA, become a member utility warehouse. That it's kind of quieted down here lately, but that might come up. And it's 2 years for bucket trucks. I didn't realize I had it on the next slide. Go ahead. It's tough. New equipment is harder and much higher cost. We do have a good staff. We're maintaining staff, that's a key component. We haven't had to face the lack of candidates like other municipalities. I mean, you look at some of the statewide utility stuff, the list is this long as far as asking for people. An electric master plan. And the biggest thing is assessing the benefit of additional power units in whatever category. Whether that's diesel, whether it's gas, whatever. Because once we have that grain mill and bakery, right now our power plant can run the town if we don't have power coming from outside. Once we have that, we don't have enough generation. So, go ahead, John. We also have a couple other little fun, well, they're not little, but one of them's not little, commercial in general. We pay the office, part of the office staff out of it. We do have a decrease, mainly the professional services software, including the credit card service fees. Gone through that here recently. Interest related to deposits. And then there's other small items as far as the rest of that goes. Go ahead, Josh. One of the big questions will be the transfer to general. Do we keep it the same or do we do something different? That affects the general. We basically support the general fund and keep our property taxes lower because we use transfers from utility funds. Compensating use tax is about the same in the reserve. The electric reserve fund had $583,000 at the end of 25. We don't want a too high reserve, but if we had a major issue on the 7 Mile tie, or build a new substation or replace a generator engine at the power plant, 500,000 would not cover any of those things. So if we didn't have insurance for whatever reason, or the insurance was slow, that puts us in a little bit of a pickle. Some people might mention, well, you have all these reserves in utility funds. Why can't that help us lower our monthly rate right now? we wanna keep you with your lights on all the time. We have to plan for these things. And it's hard for us as a small utility to do that. Go ahead, Josh. Water. We did pass an ordinance in December, effective February 26th. We expected about a 2% increase in revenues. We've had about a 3% increase so far. We'll know more at the end of the summer. This is where I act like Jekyll and Hyde and say, pump, 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 let's go ahead, pump all that water, we'll get more revenue, but we can't do that regarding conservation, so. And water revenues can vary quite a bit from year to year, so. And water is divided into production and distribution as well. There really isn't much changes. We do have a slight increase as far as the transfer to SURF. We have transfers set up for water plant update, water tower maintenance and paint, drill a well in the Memory Park, well repairs, which was set aside for salt storage, but seems like every year we're having to do something major regarding one of the wells. We do I-2 backbone just like everybody else, and we have a transfer to water reserve, but that's a pretty small amount. But go ahead. Distribution side, we have, we've used last on personnel just because we've had people keep leaving. Our insurance is up as far as the contractual. Hydrants are costing more. Construction material on the water side is actually slightly less. We do have some meters and equipment, and we do have a little bit of an increase on the SURF for the water line replacement bond payment. And one of the reasons for that water line replacement is what the state is requiring us to do through that lead and copper survey type stuff. Now, that's actually not our stuff, but they expect some of that to be replaced every year. And then we're working on stuff to replace the Vectron, update Timberline communications, because the water department has communication stuff as well. Go ahead. We have a bond payment. It'll be $270,000 in 27. We have about 2.3 million left on that bond in the water. Go ahead. We do have a transfer. That'll be another question at the end. Transfer to the general, 160. We do have a clean water fee that takes care of. And the water reserve is getting close to 350K, but that's still not enough to repair something in the treatment plant or the water tower. Go ahead. We are going to have Waterworth do a presentation. It'll actually end up in August, but we do need to continue maintenance on equipment. We're going to be looking at presenting proposal to paint the interior and the exterior of the South Water Tower. We've worked on the power plant. We've worked on just the standpipe here, just north of Memory Park. We also painted the inside of the North Water Tower a year ago. Now it's the South Tower. And the South the exterior has never been painted since it was built. So, or repainted, in other words. Go ahead. We do have additional sampling required because of the lead and copper. We're required to replace 3% of our water lines that are lead annually, but we don't have any that are within the city system. It's on the service line star side. We try to train our staff. Staff continues to insert valves in the system to prevent shutting down a larger area than needed. In fact, they did it in 2 different places on A Street in preparation for the A Street project, which will have presentation at one of the meetings in July on the A Street project. That's why Andrew's here. We need to have enough set aside to purchase well rights near city limits or build or resize water lines. That has really helped out when we replaced the line on Walnut between the high school and Stever Park. It's really made a difference for those 3 blocks. There was a study done by Andrew at EBH 4 years ago, that showed it would be about $3 million to replace all the undersized water lines and the lines that are causing problems in at this time. We obviously can't do that in one budget year.
Gonna do that now?
I think 23,
Oh, okay.
22?
I think it was 24, wasn't it? Okay. Just making sure it was after 21 or else there'd be a substantial increase.
And we do need to rehab current wells on a continual basis. Wells are old, need regular maintenance. Go ahead. Forgot to ask you guys what you thought, how many fire hydrants were around town.
249.
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's good.
Just under 250 would be my guess.
If we replace 2 fire hydrants, it takes us over 100 years to replace all the fire hydrants.
All right.
So, current ones that are the oldest are at the places that are shown there. They're from 1953, so they're 83 years old. So,
We're getting close.
How long are they supposed to last? Like 100 years?
Just depends on usage and if they don't fall apart. We've had some newer ones where the fire department used them for putting out a house fire or barn fire or something. Go to shut it off and won't shut off.
And I think I've talked about everything else on there, so. Go ahead, Josh. Sewer. Dirty water. We've had a very conservative increase in the budget. About 20 cents per month. That generates $500 more per month. $6 grand a year. But, go ahead. We also have in the sewer, we have treatment and we have collection. We split it into 2 different sides of it. There's not much changes in the treatment. We do have 50,000 there to camera sewer mains and clean headworks, that's a contractual amount. And there's just a set aside for a pickup in 27 on the MRF side. Go ahead, Josh. It's gonna be hard to keep the same amount going to the general in 27. Is this appropriate? The reserve right now in sewer is just treading water. Go ahead, Josh. Go one more. At the wastewater treatment plant, there's a need to get variable drives for the blowers, DO probe and SCADA equipment for another area at the wastewater treatment plant. And the sewer's basically been neglected. Johnson is working right now as far as looking at various places as far as a lining project that we had here in 26. Go ahead, Josh. Trash fund. Done with the utilities for now. We need to monitor and keep the fund balance. You heard the auditor say, as far as when he was saying 90 days in each of those funds, we're not even close to that in the trash fund. One thing that is just notice, there is within the contract charge added if diesel is above 350. It's definitely above 350. A quarter will be added for every 50 cents in diesel above 350. So at the end of June here, going into July, there'll be an additional charge for trash, but it's really just a pass-through to the contractor. The transfer to the general fund was reduced in 26. We need to keep the same in the proposed budget. And the final option to renew on the trash fund is January 2028 and it'll be a 1-year term for 2028. So that's within the current contract for any McCann. You have at your, in probably very tiny type, probably can't see it very well, these colored places. Yes, I'll let you look at them at home. I won't expect you to pick out anything at home right now. But that shows all the various things that all the departments that we set aside for, that I've stated during the budget presentations. With the SURF, we include amount for the annual chip seal project, crushed concrete, Main Street flowers, pool improvement, payment for 2016 water improvement bonds, other stuff. There's a whole list of other stuff. I didn't want to list it up here. Go ahead, Josh, on the road. MRF is kind of the same way. There's all kinds of different things. Bulletproof vests, police vehicles, other things. And then the grant improvement reserve fund. Again, that was just a transfer to set aside money for our match on various grants. I'll just pause for a second. And if you have any questions on what we're setting aside money for on these various things, just like you asked earlier tonight, do we have the money set aside for the Stever Water Park improvements, for the slide? It wasn't specifically for the slides, it's just for anything that's at the pool. That's what happens with an awful lot of these. Setting aside a little amount each year instead of having an elephant to put in the budget on 1 year. Go ahead, Josh. The employee benefits fund is one other area that we have on ad valorem tax. We do have a little bit more in the employee benefits fund within the current budget with what it's set right now. As far as the expenses, the different funds transfer into employee benefits fund, and then that's what we pay our health insurance and our retirement out of. The health insurance, we're budgeted for an 8% increase. Is that enough? Don't know. But every year it's a don't know.
Yeah.
Capers were required to put aside 10%, over 10% on every employee that we have, full-time employee. And of course, Social Security and unemployment as a percentage of personnel costs. Go ahead, Josh. We do provide our insurance through a partially self-insurance fund. As part of health insurance contract, we have payments towards stop loss that are included in this plan. Our cash balance is budgeted to finish 2026 at just like $500,000. So we're doing okay. It's not great, but it's not tragedy either. It's good. Go ahead, Josh. Airport fund. These are just the accounting funds. The city must ensure local funds are available in this fund when the city signs a grants agreement with KDOT Aviation or the FAA. And then on the slide is all the stuff we have currently that projects that haven't been closed out. We have still some stuff regarding the old Crosswind Runway project that is almost closed out. It's almost there. And then we have obviously the airport pavement preservation that occurred last summer. And then the SRE, the snow removal equipment that we purchased. And now we have the building to house the snow removal equipment and also the fuel tanks. So that's what that list is about. On there, it's also included in the set of documents that I sent you just before the meeting. Go ahead,
Does that
Josh.
also include, I think it was the last commission meeting, where we talked about one of the buildings out at the airport may need the door repaired, the garage, I'll call it the garage door just because I don't know.
It doesn't include funds for that, no. This is basically just regarding the grants we receive. Unless we could swing it with KDOT Aviation, but I would doubt they would come forward with that.
Maybe like wishful thinking.
Could put in a request, all they can do is say no, but I don't think it would be productive. Go ahead, Josh. There, and I just do this so that there's just a mention of all the various funds that you see once it gets to the actual state document on the budget. The Airport Improvement Fund ends up with grant receipts, also transferred from the airport fund, the other fund. This is a non-budgeted fund that's used to account for the expenditures and reimbursements on airport. Mary could probably tell you the difference more than me, but will be a technical issue between 9 and 31. But
That's just for the accounting of it, of the project as a whole. Cause like, all the grant funds are deposited in there, and then the local funds will always transfer from the 9 to the 31. He basically said it.
go ahead, Josh. Library. Library gets a certain amount of money for us, the Sherman County Library. The fourth bullet point there, there's an ordinance from several years ago, a couple decades ago, limits total to 6.75 mils for the library and the library employee benefit. They have a separate little employee benefit fund. It's been increasing ever since single year since I've been here. Their proposal to us is increasing from 239,000 to 270,000 as far as the taxes required to cover those two funds. It took 5.788 mils for both funds in 26. The proposal is just over 6 mils. 27. We don't have any authority regarding the expenditures within that amount. It's just the total. We had to do the same thing in previous years as far as if there's any difference that we can say regarding it. Go ahead, Josh. The bond and interest fund will have slightly more ad valorem in 27 than 26. The Series 2017 issue, which was for street improvements, that was done in 17-18 time frame. It's got only one more year until it's paid off. Right now, the expenses are going to be $288,400 in the principal and interest, and then we include an amount for a cash basis guarantee if there's a call on the remainder of the bonds. Anything else to say regarding that, Mary, or no?
Well, I would like to say that they need to think about a project for 28, because if you, how do I put this? If the project pays off in 27, so in 28, in order to levy funds, you have to have a project. And if you don't, then it's gonna be tough to get that mill back, the way the taxes, the legislature is and everything. But that's how you kind of keep your community improving, is once an issue pays off, you
Should be planning for your next project.
Can that not go into any of the?
What did she say? I couldn't hear
Can that
you.
not go into any of the projects we are currently talking about, like the 8th Street project?
No, because like the
electric?
8th Street project was, when you voted to finance that, you voted to do it through the sales tax. So that is through the sales tax at the city, county, and Canarado. share, so in order to pay off that bond issue, that's how that bond is paid.
So it's just an idea, and it's not for this budget, but it's something to keep in mind that we could have a drop off, but it may be much more difficult to keep that same level. But it's, because we do have more issues than just a street, regarding streets. So. But it's just for thought process, for something, not for this budget. Go ahead, Josh. We have a law enforcement fund. Let's just finish this up. Law enforcement fund, court ruling will severely limit the forfeitures and impounds that will be allowed in this category, so we're not going to have as much end up there. Go ahead, Josh. And the diversion fund, we account for it within there. We do have, it can only be dedicated to certain things, training and police equipment. Go ahead, Josh. Special highway. It's according to the gasoline tax, but that's staying flat or going down. It's the main source to chip and seal streets in Goodland. 2026, we are getting about 165,000. And
It's going down?
and it's getting less each year, what we get from the state. It's a pass-through from the state. Because they collect the gasoline tax and then they distribute it to all the cities and counties. But because of electric vehicles and vehicles with higher gas mileage, that type of thing, and the revenue, the rate has not changed in a long, long time. So it's not generating any additional funds. So I think we were 20,000 more than that, several years ago. So, whereas the costs don't go down. So, go ahead. The cost share grant project was tracked in this fund where we did the 2 lanes on Caldwell. It's actually going to be chip and sealed this year over it. And the city typically uses this fund as the main source for the chip and seal project of the streets in the city. However, we've also have a reserve from the street and alley fund to fill in what we don't get through this gas tax. This is state funded, so we don't really get a chance to say we want more. So. Special parks is where we deposit the liquor. There's a certain amount on the liquor tax that goes to cities. Half has to go to the general fund, half to the special parks. We get about 9,000 or 10,000. We've basically used it to help with our various projects over the last few years, whether it's sprinklers and adding additional sprinkler systems, lights or the shade structure in Stever Park, or the pickleball redo. We've expended up to 15,000 in previous years. Now that may take a year and 2 years of revenues to do that, but that's what we expend. So go ahead. VIN inspection. Go ahead, Josh. Okay. To meet the same ad valorem rate as the 2026 budget, the budget would require an additional 154,000 in cuts or additions to revenue. Big sales. To meet the projected R&R rate, there would have to be 175,000 in cuts. So it's not as severe as prior years. Our valuation, we did receive it. I don't think I brought it up the stairs. It's still in the 43 million. Well, it's 43,000 and change per mil. Per mil.
3.9.
43.9. We were at what last year, Mary?
43.5.
So we only went up from 43,500,000 total valuation in the city to 43,900,000. So that extra 400,000. That's why the difference between, to meet R&R, which is the neutral rate, I forgot what the
Revenue
first one.
neutral rate.
That one. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's only about a $20,000 difference to meet that. And staff is gonna need direction. Do we try to meet that? Do we try to meet the same amount that we had in 26? We will put together, we're doing this a meeting early just because the way the meetings fell. We'll put together different examples there where cuts could occur. If you want to suggest anything, don't hesitate to text it or send an email or send it by carrier pigeon into City Hall. Let us know. The hard thing is, obviously, the dollar is not purchasing as much as it did in prior years. That's always a hard thing. Whether or not we try to reach the R&R of 54.511 mils, that's where our R&R is. Do we send the request to have a hearing notice? That's what's going to be the question in July. And with the three-legged stool of property tax, sales taxes, and user fees, there isn't something else that helps pay for, we have little things that help pay a little bit of budget. But those are the three things that help pay for the city organization to continue providing the services that they currently have. How do we pay for increased costs? Go ahead, Justin. Do I have anything else, or is that the end?
This might be a silly question, but what are user fees?
The electric, water, sewer, and trash. We'll also need some direction on utility funds and some items that are becoming critical. Electric generation, the new power contract rates, and all the three utilities. I ended up not finishing this page earlier today because of interruptions, so we'll just leave it at that. At the very bottom of this page, I left that, moved it to the end here. Our assessed valuation increase as seen in our total assessed valuation was less than 1%. It was 0.8 of 1%, or just under 9/10 of 1% increase. So that's what we got for this budget. So I've given you an awful lot of papers. I'll be giving you more papers on some of the minor things. But has this been sufficient to at least get you started thinking about budget?
Yes.
This is a lot of really good information. I'm sure it took a lot of time to put together, so thank you.
I'm sorry.
Well, the department heads did an awful lot preparing stuff before it got to here. These overall questions will be more exact at the next meeting. We'll also have examples for you. But I don't think we're as an extreme a place as we were in previous years, but that doesn't mean it will be any less hard to come to a final decision.
I love budget time. Well, you know, I'd certainly say on behalf of all of us up here, we appreciate Kent and Mary and the department heads for putting in the time and the effort to do this. You can see the stress on your guys' faces when we walk in during budget time, and that's not lost on us, so thank you for your work on that. And we'll be ready to give some more clear direction at the next meeting. I hope.
That'll be the expectation.
I hope.
Or whether we have to have a special meeting after we give you some more choices. The problem is that the July meetings, the next meeting's on July 6th, which is the Monday after 4th of July. And then the second meeting's on July 20th. And the problem is on July 20th is the day we need to the last day we can notify the county clerk regarding the R&R hearing. So we have to make our budget decisions before July 20th.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but as in previous years, we can notify the county that we need a hearing, but still meet the R&R and then end up not needing it anyway, right?
Correct. We basically have to have our notice of hearing, which is the actual state form that shows what number we're looking at. And that would be, end up to be the maximum number we can be at.
What you plan on
Either that or
levying,
less.
but it's like he said, you can always go down, never go up.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay.
On that subject.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns on what we've just heard for the draft 2027 budget presentation?
No.
Okay. We'll move on to, hey Kent, you wanna talk again for a city manager report?
No, I'm done talking.
Okay.
Included in your package is manager memo and the month-end fund balance, well, it's with you now, the month-end fund balance report. There was also the police monthly activity report. And then I would turn it over to building official Hildebrand and update on other properties. Or do you have anything regarding that?
I think we had miscommunication on 621 West 17th Street on the update.
Okay. Okay. I thought there was other properties you knew. Property up on Grand.
The 10th is their deadline.
Okay. So they have a little bit to go. Okay. Neil, can you give an update regarding the Johnson Utilities and sewer situation?
Evening.
Johnson Service was here last week and part of this week to do the cleanings and inspections on the lining project that we had coming in. They had to grind off some taps that were protruding into the mains, so they got all that cleaned up, and next part of the project will be the lining and point repair patches. And we did add a manhole, the one behind Tequila's. How long ago was that been, Zach? 3 months ago, we had problems in that alley, and it took us 5.5 hours to get through it, because we could only go one way. I thought that manhole had been rehabbed and got rid of the flush pit. It hadn't, so we could only go one direction on that. So now that we added that to the project, we can go both directions now off of those manholes, if we ever need to clean that again. So that's where we're at on the next one, and I'm not sure when they're gonna be here for the linings, but if you have a chance to watch that, that's something very interesting. I think Mayor Schulter seen that project.
Yeah, keep us up to date when come watch.
Okay, I sure will, thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks.
The EDA grant is still progressing. That's the grant that we're asking on the utility extension for the industrial park and the additional substation to be built there. We don't have any major news. They were supposed to have, with the April submissions, have it considered at a June meeting of the EDA. They're looking to have 2 different meetings for the EDA in June, so there's no additional information at this time, but it is, still, in a favorable position about that. And it is progressing on the other side too, as far as the congressionally directed spending request for the additional entrance into the industrial park. That was supposed to start, actually, the additional consideration, whichever committee in Congress to consider those, the Appropriations Committee, is actually in that ballpark now. It's made it past the first hurdle, it's now into the Appropriations Committee. So those are two major things regarding that. And we will have an update. Staff is working with Waterworth for an updated presentation. Again, it'll be after budget, but be good information regarding rates.
Okay. Any questions, comments, or concerns for our city manager on his report? Seeing none, we'll move on to city commissioners' reports. Start here on my left with Commissioner Redland.
Yeah, I think it would be really good to have SCCD come back in, and I'd like to see, I know they came, what was it, end of May? When they gave their last report. I'd like to just sit down and have a discussion with them and see what their plans are for this upcoming year. Again, and because looking back at it, I didn't see a lot of KPIs of like what they're trying to measure against, and I'd like to see a little bit more in that, if that's at all possible.
Okay, Commissioner Howard?
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Cloyd?
The one item I wanted to bring up is, I did attend a 5-day celebration at Chambers Park this week and noticed quite a few weeds in that park, and so I was just gonna ask, is that something that the Parks and Rec Department can look into?
Okay. Commissioner Archer?
First of all, thank you staff for everything you're doing with budget. I know it sucks, so thanks. I was approached by someone from the library board with frustration that there isn't a wayfinding point for the library. With the new sign project.
Okay.
With actual extreme frustration with it. I told her I would bring it up and see if we can find a solution to that, because it is an important amenity in the community. Just an oversight, it happens, but she would like to be, they would like to be included in the new signs.
Do we know, were they on the signs before?
No, she said they haven't ever been on the wayfinding signs. So, I think there was a hope with the new signs they might be included, and so that's that. But thank you.
Okay. On the mayor's report, I don't have anything to add. I would accept a motion to adjourn if there's nothing further.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Redland.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Howard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.